are live here on Texans Today. Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and on today's program, the latest news and rumors around your Houston Texans. And the NFL trade rumors are heating up as we near the NFL trade deadline. Reminder, it's right after the Texans' Week 9 game up against the Denver Broncos. November 4th is the NFL trade deadline, and multiple NFL insiders have come out and named your Houston Texans as buyers and sellers near the trade deadline. I'll break down everything you need to know about that. And then I talked with our 49ers host, Chase Sr., and I'm not going to lie. Some of the stuff that he was telling me that the 49ers were doing well in the past couple weeks and kind of the trends that they've been going on, it's not good news for your Houston Texans. And I know that's not what we all want to hear, but I want to outline some of those problems that maybe the Texans can look forward to and maybe try to mitigate as we near Week 8. The Texans going up against the San Francisco 49ers. We'll break all that down. And then, of course, at the end of today's program, we always do a Texans fan mailbag. So if you want to get in, hashtag Texans, or you can super chat to get on the program. Going to start it off hot. Who's on the hotter seat? Nick Caley or Nick Caserio? Let me know down in the comment section right now. The live poll is telling me definitely Nick Caley, but I think it might be a little bit more Caserio. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. Yeah, this was actually the only photo I could find of Nick Caserio. There was no other photos of Nick Caserio out there. So let me know, though. Who do you think is on a hotter seat right now in terms of their job security? Is it Caley or is it Caserio? Let me know down below in the comment section. I see Senior Larry checking in. He said it starts with Caserio. So I said a lot of people are calling for Caley, but Caserio, not going to lie, he's been grinding my gears with some of the things that he's been saying in his press conferences. And even looking back to after the draft, I quote tweeted one of my good buddies, Houston Stressens. He had a quote from Caserio right after the draft that, I'm not going to lie, rubbed me the wrong way. Fluid says Caley. Senior Larry says both. Wyatt says Caserio. Fire Wing says both Caley and Caserio. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. O-line and Caserio selling us from Wyatt. Not completely wrong there. Moises. I'm not going to call him Little CJ, but I know Moises, you're mostly here to just be a troll for the Texans channel, which perfectly fine with that. I know you're a Cowboys fan. But I do somewhat agree with what you had to say that CJ is developing some pretty bad habits because of the pressure and because he's not able to correctly read the defense. He has to worry about getting hit every other play. I know you're semi-joking, but kind of right. I kind of agree with that. Logan, CJ's not the problem. I also agree with that. I don't think CJ's even on the top 3 of problems that you have right now on this Texans squad. But he's not helping. He's not helping the issues at the same time. Fluid, will the offense flow through Schultz or Woody Marks this week? That's a good question. Make sure you put hashtag Texans on the front of that so we can get you in on our Texans Today mailbag. Or if you want to ensure that you are 100% going to be on the mailbag, you can super chat with your question. If you super chat with the question, we'll get you on the mailbag. If you send in a 5, you'll be entered in to win this Will Anderson Jr. autographed helmet. It's the H-Town alternate, which, funny enough, Texans this week wearing the H-Town alternate jersey. So if you want a chance to win this, every $5 gives you an opportunity to win that Will Anderson Jr. helmet. We're giving that away at the end of the month. And then it's been a tradition almost, I would say, the past 3 weeks. I've done my Texans Today mailbag and my Texans Today helmet. So if you want to continue the tradition, if we get to $100 in Super Chats, I will go ahead and wear this helmet during our Texans mailbag at the end of the program. And this is a tough question as well. I know I've said the past couple weeks it's been must-win games, but this one, I mean it this time. I actually mean it this time. This is a must-win game. Alberto Serrato checking in. If the Texans lose this week, is the season over? For real. I mean, I didn't know the AFC was going to be so wide open. For the first time in, seems like maybe 5-6 years, the NFC, I think, has more talent than the AFC. That helps your Houston Texans. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the AFC North is usually loaded. It's really just the Steelers. The AFC East, Bills and Patriots are good, but you have two dumpster fires in the Jets and Dolphins once again. The AFC South might be the best division in the AFC with the Colts, Jags, and then the Texans kind of bringing up the rear with that one. And then obviously the Titans are the basement dwellers of that division. And then the AFC West, the Chiefs are struggling. The Broncos are barely beating teams. The Chargers, after a strong start, have lost a couple games. So, I don't know. Let me know, though. If the Texans lose this week, is the season over? Yeah, the Raiders. They're the Raiders right now. They are who we thought they were. I don't think the Texans are dead now. I refuse to believe it. I refuse to buy in to the fact that the Texans still can't make the playoffs. Believe it or not, on multiple sites, they said the Texans still have a more than 20% chance to make the playoffs where they stand right now at 2-4. Yeah, not even halfway through the season. And I mean, 20%, if you're telling me, obviously I wouldn't prefer being that low of a percentage to make the playoffs, but still not I wouldn't put that in the category of over. Under 10%, I'm saying it's probably over. But tell me, over 20% chance to still make the playoffs? Brandon, not with our schedule. The thing is, Brandon, our schedule gets easier. We play the Raiders, the Cardinals, we play the Titans again. The schedule gets easier as the season goes on. We're playing a tough stretch right now where we play the Niners and the Broncos. But, I mean, and obviously you have to win your games if you want to make the playoffs. But I think the Texans' schedule is somewhat favorable for the rest of the year compared to a couple other teams. Yeah. I think, I'm not ready to be out. I'm just not ready to be out. No. Yeah. I'm not ready to be out. I see people getting their questions in. Make sure you're using the hashtag Texans, because if you don't do that, producer Jack won't be able to find your question and get it up on screen. And then also, we have 102 people rocking and rolling with us so far on our Texans Today live show. So let's try to get that number up. Let's get to 45 likes, and we'll start with our first segment going over the latest news and rumors around your Houston Texans. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up icon, like today's video. And I always say, if you tune in for our live shows, you'll have opportunities to get free raffle tickets and free stuff for our giveaways, like the Will Anderson Jr. autographed helmet. So this is what I'm going to do. Like the video and type me. I'm going to give away 2 free raffle tickets right now for the Will Anderson Jr. autographed helmet. Let's get those likes up so we can start the show. And I want to show some appreciation for everybody tuning in to the beginning of the live show. If you could, like the video and type me if you did, so I know who to give some free raffle tickets to if you want to get this show on the road. Amanda Pearl is getting a free raffle ticket. Let's see. Who else wants a free one? I'm going to go with Amanda Pearl. And then I'll give one to Malik the Rapper. And then I'll give one to Neo Razor. One of the mods in the chat. Thank you so much, Neo. All right. We're 1 like away from 45, and then we can start the show. 1 like away from 45, and then we'll start the show, and we just got there. So, coming up, we have the latest news and rumors around your Houston Texans. I know You know, it's a little bleak right now. But hopefully we can turn things around this week and get on the right track. Hopefully we can get on the right track because, you know, I refuse to believe the Texans are done. And Brian Herrera, maybe you want to be a little baby and cry in the corner and say the Texan season is done. Say, you know, this, that, and the other. Try to clown me in the chat. It's all good, Brian Herrera. But just know, I'm not about that life. I'm not going to be low energy. I'm not going to be sulking around like a little baby dog just crying in the corner. That's not me. I'm not going to do that. So if that's you, that's all good. I'm going to look at the glass half full. So, yeah, Brian Herrera, he's being a little crybaby right now. Being a little crybaby right now. So it's all good. We can't all be crying in the corner. So whenever the Texans are winning, I don't want to hear it. I don't want the fair weather Brian Herrera's to come back and be, oh yeah, I've been a Texans day one. No, you're not. Yeah. He's the guy that once they're winning, he's like, dude, I've been a Texans real one forever, man. I've been supporting this team forever. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. All right, let's get into the first show on today's program. Brian, with all that said, thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate you. I do appreciate you tuning into the show. If you could like the video for me, Brian. John Ryan, love you too. You know what, John Ryan? You're getting a free raffle ticket for being a real one. There we go. We're going to get into the first show on today's program, going over the latest news and rumors. And let's break it all down here on the channel right now. Producer Jack, you ready? All right, here we go. Coming up on today's program, DeMeco Ryans defends Nick Caley after a putrid performance on Monday Night Football up against the Seattle Seahawks. I'll tell you what he had to say. Also, we'll look at a little, that's on me. This should say Week 8 injury outlook. After Week 7, going into Week 8 injury outlook. And then at the end of today's show, I'm going to tell you what is going on at the left guard position with your Houston Texans. But before we get into all that, quick question to the audience. Fill in the blank for me. DeMeco Ryans' seat is blank at the moment. Fill in the blank for me. What do you think it is? Is it hot? Is it cool? Is it scolding? Let me know down in the comments section. DeMeco Ryans' seat is blank at the moment. Let me know down below because according to one of my good buddies, Jonathan Alexander of the Houston Chronicle, it is ice cold right now. This is what he had to say on a recent mailbag article that he put out on the Chronicle. Let's start with Ryans. No, his job is safe past this season. As for Nick Caley and Nick Caserio, I wouldn't feel as confident saying their jobs would be safe at the end of the season. They won't be fired in the coming weeks, but an in-depth evaluation will occur after the final game is played. And I didn't think DeMeco's seat was getting hot. I mean, first 2 seasons for the team, division wins, playoff wins. You're not gonna stray away from that after you had a string of bad coaches before DeMeco was in the building with David Culley, Lovie Smith, and company. DeMeco's not going anywhere this season. And I don't even think, next season necessarily either he's going anywhere anytime soon. But the big thing from that article was what he said after, when he talked about Nick Caserio and he talked about Nick Caley. And it's funny because DeMeco actually came out today and he defended Nick Caley. Following this Texans' awful game, he said, Caley's still my guy. This is exactly what he had to say after that Seahawks loss. It all starts with me. So you guys want to point the finger at somebody, put it on me. That's my job. And ultimately, it's my job to get it fixed. So that's how it'll be. But we're rolling on what we have, and we got to just all do better. You got to coach you better. We got to play better. We got to execute better on game day. And look, as bad as it seems, I tell the guys at the end of the day, we're still one possession from getting that game. And, for good reason, Texans fans were up in arms around Nick Caley because this was the Texans' offensive output up against the Seattle Seahawks. 254 yards, 3.7 yards per play, 198 passing yards, 56 rush yards, and a turnover. And I'll say this, unpopular opinion, I actually kind of like this from DeMeco. I know we're all pissed off at Nick Caley. We all, have our pitchforks ready. But at the end of the day, I think DeMeco's taking a lot of accountability here, saying, you know what? I got to be better as the head coach. I'm the top man in charge. And, maybe Nick Caserio can learn a thing or two from DeMeco Ryans on being a leader. Because I think what DeMeco Ryans is doing here is being a good leader. What Nick Caserio does is pretend like he's the smartest guy in the room and acts like everybody else is dumb for questioning his decisions. That's not what DeMeco's doing here. But at the same time, the offensive output for this Texans team in 2025, it's just been unacceptable. Besides playing a Tennessee Titans team that was, obviously one of the worst teams in the league, and playing basically the Baltimore Ravens JV team with all their injuries on defense, this team has been awful on offense. And slightly a joke, slightly not, PFT from Pardon My Take put this out on Twitter yesterday, and I kind of agree. He seems just as bummed out playing for the Texans as we seem watching the Texans. And that's what we said basically from halfway last year into this year, is that C.J. Stroud doesn't seem to have his swagger. He doesn't seem to be enjoying the game, having as much fun. Remember rookie year C.J.'s dancing all on the sidelines, getting hype with his guy Tank Dell? We don't really see that anymore from C.J. We don't see him having that love for the game, having that passion, having that, fire that he had his rookie season. And the stats from the Seahawks, the tail of the tape, it's not all in the numbers, but if you watched that game, if you stayed up late, the game ended at, past midnight for us people on Central Time. This might have been one of the worst C.J. Stroud games I've seen in a while. He was off. The rhythm was off. He couldn't get anything going. Overall, C.J. was just having a horrible time up against that Seattle Seahawks defense. And the question now is, can he bounce back? Can he, get back to a point where, he's in the discussion of a top 10 quarterback, a franchise quarterback, somebody that deserves a long-term extension? Because at this point, if you polled Texans fans, I don't know if Texans fans would want the Texans to extend C.J. Stroud, give him a massive extension like the Jags did with Trevor Lawrence. I still am on the C.J. Stroud bandwagon. I still think he's our franchise guy, and I think with things being fixed, with pieces being, moved around and guys being added to the squad, Stroud can once again be a good quarterback. But where he is right now, the pieces around him, the coaching staff, it's hard to have a lot of faith. Even though C.J. Stroud came out today and said he is more confident than ever, and he has faith in where the Texans are going moving forward. Maybe a little leadership speak, maybe something that, DeMeco Ryans rubbing off a little bit on C.J. Stroud, but I do still have faith that Stroud is the guy. Now, coming up in just a moment, we're going to look at the Texans and 49ers injury outlooks going into Week 8. Obviously, some big injuries for your Houston Texans, and the 49ers, they are not coming in unscathed either. They have a lot of injuries that we can talk about on their side. Before we get into that, quick word from our sponsor. Couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our friends over at Prize Picks. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. It's simple. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player snap projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in, win up to 2,000 times your money today. And we're looking at my lineup. A new feature on the Prize Picks app is the Stacks feature. So you can basically do multiple projections for a singular player. I'm doing that with my guy, C.J. Stroud, in this week's lineup. 200.5 passing yards. I'm going the more. And I said earlier on in the season, if they're giving you low rush yards for Stroud, I'm going the more. They've listened to me. They've listened to me a little bit. They raised it to 16.5 rush yards, so I'm going the less on that. Jaylin Noel had a great game up against the Seahawks, so I think maybe he'll get a touchdown up against the 49ers. I'm going the more on his rushing and receiving touchdowns. And Mac Jones, longest completion of 34.5. The Texans, they let up a ton of chunk plays up against the Seahawks. I think they're going to tighten up. I don't think Mac Jones is going to air it out as much as Sam Darnold did, so I'm going the less on that. You could use my lineup or go ahead and make your own with our friends over at Prize Picks today. Download the Prize Picks app and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right. I was going to put the Texans injury report in, but at the time that I'm filming, I don't see it yet released. So let's just talk about the injuries that we do know. Nico Collins, he was not at practice today. A huge loss if he's out. You didn't watch that Seahawks Week 7 game. Nico Collins exited with a concussion, did not return. Did not look pretty either. Right after the play, he looked visibly shaken up and looked like, after a head injury where you're kind of like this and you're kind of don't know where you are for a second, that's kind of what Nico looked like. So I would doubt that he would be good to go for this next Sunday's matchup, but hopefully he clears concussion protocols throughout the week and will be able to suit up for the Texans this Sunday. But Nico Collins, the main name that you got to look for throughout this week whenever the Texans put out their injury reports. And Aaron Wilson had it first on X. Texans signing wide receiver Jared Wayne to the 53-man roster from the practice squad per league source. Christian Kirk and Nico Collins were both sidelined during today's practice. Kirk dealing with that hamstring once again, and then Nico Collins, obviously the concussion that he suffered up against the Seattle Seahawks. And it's like we're back to square one with the receiving room. We cannot stay healthy. We cannot just have a solid wide receiver core for more than a couple weeks. And I'm just hoping Nico gets back out there. If you're with me, if you want to see Nico Collins out there, I know before that he really didn't have a good game up against the Seahawks either. But I still think Nico is a top receiver, is the Texans' top receiver for sure. And I want to see him back out there on the field. So if he is watching this video, please spam those 12s down below. Show him a little bit of love. If he does come across this video, I want him to see nothing but love in the comment section. So go spam those 12s down below in the comment section. All right, let's go to the 49ers side of things. Bryce Huff dealing with a hamstring injury. It is reported that he will miss maybe 2-3 weeks, so definitely not playing up against the Houston Texans. I talked to Chase Sr., and he told me not playing, doubtful, 50-50 on Upton Stout. Shout out to the former UNT safety, Upton Stout. And then going on with the injury report, he said 50-50, doubtful, 50-50. So we'll see whether or not those guys are good to go. But like I said, the 49ers, not without their fair share of injuries on their side as well. So something to look at as we progress through the week. Me and Chase Sr., I'm going to try to do another joint preview like I did last week with our Seahawks host, Will Ortner. I think a lot of y'all like that. So I'm going to do that again this week, and then I'll keep you updated throughout the week on Texans Today with all the injury news that you need to know around the Texans and the 49ers. Now, last up, before we get out of here, what in the world are the Texans doing at left guard? Because it is abysmal, the offensive line output, and the fact that they keep on putting Laken Tomlinson in is such a I have no idea what Nick Caley, DeMeco Ryans, Cole Popovich, I don't know who makes the final decision on the snap counts or who's starting or how they're rotating these guards, but make it make sense, because Juice Scruggs, I thought, had clearly been outplaying Laken Tomlinson. The two Texans wins this year. Juice Scruggs, snap count at left guard, 80% up against the Titans, 100% up against the Baltimore Ravens. Then you go to week 7, 43%. He plays less than half of the offensive snaps for the Houston Texans. How does that make any sense? In my opinion, you got to start Juice Scruggs the rest of the season, or you got to find a guard in the trade market. Laken Tomlinson does not have it. He, as a fail-safe, if people get injured, fine, okay, but as the guy that you're rolling out there to start, he can't do it. And the fact is, two of the most game-defining plays up against the Seattle Seahawks, Laken Tomlinson got his butt whooped. The 3rd and 4th down runs with Woody Marks to the left side, those were behind Laken Tomlinson. Juice Scruggs was out of the game at that point. So you're telling me that somebody who is repeatedly getting whooped, repeatedly getting beat, you're going to, okay, yeah, we'll go 50-50 with starting you. No sense. It makes no sense. You got to start Juice, or if you don't like either of those options, Nick Caserio, Pick up the phone and trade for another offensive lineman. Get somebody else in here that can actually block for C.J. Stroud. That's all I have for you on today's show, folks. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, you can do so at Jeremy Chuggs. My DMs are always open. And if you made it to the end of today's video, obviously I'm doing something right. So hit that subscribe button for daily Texans content all season long. All right, first segment in the books. In the books. Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking with Juice Scruggs. And I don't know. But as I said, you got to try to trade for somebody if you're not going to play Juice Scruggs. If Juice Scruggs isn't the answer, that's fine. But you can't play Laken Tomlinson. You can't do it. He's going to be 35 years old. He's over the hump. He's shown that he can't play at the level we need him to play at that left guard spot. And it's in a very important position because you're next to the rookie left tackle, Ariante Ursary. And not having a guy that you can trust at left guard, that affects him. Because if he doesn't have somebody who's able to help him on either double teams, on stunts, which the Texans have been awful defending this year, that's where you get all those, missed blocks. That's where you get all those free rushers coming because he's not able to build continuity with the left guard. He has a different guy every other drive playing next to him. And then two, it's just they're not good. They're just not good so far. So let me know. If the Texans were to trade for somebody before the deadline, who do you think it would be? Let me know down in the comments section. Brandon Hollum, 33rd team, said Ursary had the fewest pressures of all rookie O-linemen last week. I think he's been good. The only problem I have with the Ursary move and everything that they did was they traded Laramie Tunsil, and then they used draft capital to replace him. But Laramie Tunsil, his penalties were an issue last year, but the whole offensive line was not good. So you replaced your most talented player in Laramie Tunsil. You went ahead and replaced him. You really didn't do much else, right? You traded for Ed Ingram. Luckily, that's helped us out a little bit. But center, left guard, I'm still not the biggest fan of Jake Andrews. I think he's just I would say he's mediocre but below average at center. And the left guard spot is just effed us. Here we go. Make sure if you do have a question, put that hashtag Texans down in the comments section. And if you want to get up on screen like Eric Marquez, super chat coming in from you, we'll put you up. Every $5 gets you a chance for the Will Anderson Jr. helmet raffle. And if we get to $100 on today's program, obviously I do the helmet mailbag. But let's go ahead and get his super chat up on screen if we could for Eric Marquez. He said, keyword, what we have, that can change firing people. I feel you, Eric. I feel you. Keyword, what we have. Are you talking about the quote that I put in there? Are you talking about the DeMeco Ryans quote, or are you talking about the Jonathan Alexander quote? I'm sorry, I didn't see exactly when you sent this in, so if you could, let me know in the comment section which one or what you're exactly referring to. But, from what I've heard, I don't think a firing is on the horizon, at least not yet. Definitely not. I don't think in season, unless it just continues to go just absolutely downhill. But we'll see how that goes. All right. I see a couple people getting their questions in. Reminder, hashtag Texans, or you can super chat to get on the show. We'll do that mailbag here in just a little bit. But let's go ahead and get into our next segment, talking about the latest NFL trade rumors. We have a bunch of reports coming from NFL insiders, and very interesting ones at that. So let's go ahead and get into that. Bad boy Ambus says, fire Caserio. Right now, I'm looking at the live poll. Nick Caley at 51%, Nick Caserio at 21%, the offensive line at 18%, and C.J. Stroud at 9%. The question was, most to blame so far for the start of the slow season? Yeah. Definitely Nick Caley, Nick Caserio, I think are the 1 and 2 right there. And I almost want to say if you voted for offensive line, I would say that's a vote for Nick Caserio in my book. Because who said the offensive line was okay? Who laughed at Texans fans when we all brought up the concerns with the offensive line? Nick Caserio literally laughed at you and said, oh, yeah, you think the offensive line is a problem? Oh, look at this guy. He doesn't know ball. That's literally what he was telling us right before the season started. He goes, oh, yeah, trust me. He was talking like it was like that scene from Step Brothers where Brennan, tries to say something, and they're like, what are you even talking about? What are you even saying? It was, I don't know. Nick Caserio just more and more has just pissed me off throughout this season. Yep, 6 inches from the goal line, and we can't run it. I know. All right, coming up, we break down a ton of reports from NFL insiders on the latest trade rumors. If you're ready to get in this next segment, hit that like button. Let's look around the league at the latest trade rumors coming in from NFL insiders. Coming up on today's show, we break down a ton of reports from NFL insiders around the latest trade rumors. Reminder, NFL trade deadline right after Week 9, after the Texans face the Broncos. It is November 4th. So we have up until then for the Texans to either trade somebody away or trade for another player to bring in. This is the only question I'm going to ask you on this show. Do the Texans need to make a trade? Let me know yes or no, because we're going to break down a ton of reports. There's been people saying the Texans are going to be sellers and sell some of their guys off. They're saying the Texans are going to be buyers and make a couple moves as well. Nick Caserio, known for being a guy to make a ton of moves, but in-season trades, hasn't done a ton of that throughout his tenure with the Houston Texans. More of an off-season guy. So let me know. Do you think the Texans need to make a trade? Give me a yes or give me a no. First up, let's look at the Athletics' Dianna Russini on what she said around the Houston Texans. Despite Texans GM Nick Caserio's reputation for aggressively making trades, teams haven't received calls from Houston looking to add. At least not yet. Very interesting report from Russini. She actually put out a whole report with everything that she's been hearing around different NFL teams. And for the Houston Texans, obviously, she was mentioning that she hasn't heard that they've looked to make any moves. But she did say looking to add. She didn't say that the Texans haven't shopped any of their players. So that's an interesting little tidbit in that Dianna Russini report if you're, I guess, trying to read in between the lines a little bit there. Here's also from that Dianna Russini article. She said the Titans fire sale. Basically, everybody besides Cam Ward and Jeffrey Simmons up for grabs. Maybe a Kevin Zeitler for the Houston Texans, the right guard. I wanted the Texans to sign him in free agency this offseason, but from Russini's report, basically everybody is up for sale for the Tennessee Titans. The Dallas Cowboys, she said they are scouring the NFL looking for defensive help. Might be in play with your Houston Texans because there's a couple guys that were mentioned as trade pieces that the Texans could look to sell off to other teams, and a couple guys on the defense that the Dallas Cowboys could look to add if they want to take a quick trip up I-45. Olave with the New Orleans Saints. He's been a part of a ton of trade discussion so far, but she actually said she's been hearing that he's working on an extension with the New Orleans Saints. They're not looking to shop him. They're looking to keep him in New Orleans. A very interesting report there from Dianna because everybody has been saying, Chris Olave, he's going to be traded for a third, traded for a fourth, traded for a second-round pick. Doesn't look like he's going to be traded at all, according to this article. Patriots want another running back, and funny enough, I'm actually going to show you here in just a little bit. ESPN put a trade together with the Houston Texans and the New England Patriots doing just that. And she said the Raiders are looking to add at defensive line. Even though a lot of people are thinking the Raiders are going to be major sellers at the trade deadline, she's saying that Raiders are looking to add some defensive line help. So what does that leave with Nick Caserio? What will he do as we near the trade deadline? Because, as I mentioned, he people are saying, oh, the Texans are 2-4. They're definitely going to be sellers at the deadline. But also, the AFC's kind of weak. It's kind of wide open to get a wild card spot. So the Texans could look to add pieces to hopefully get on the right track at some point and get to winning and get a playoff spot in this year's AFC race. That leads me to the ESPN reports. The Texans have been heavily linked to buying and selling via the latest ESPN trade article that was put out. So let's take a look at some of the guys that possibly the Texans could add, because they mentioned a couple guys that the Texans, could be in on, and they mentioned a couple guys that the Texans could sell on. Before that, ESPN actually released an article maybe 2 weeks ago, and I mentioned the Patriots from Dianna Russini's report looking for running back help. This is the trade that ESPN put out a week and a half ago. I put it on my social media. The Texans received Kyle Duggar, safety, and the Patriots received Dameon Pierce at running back. In my opinion, a kind of win-win trade. You get rid of a running back who has been a healthy and active for you for half the season, and even when he is active, he doesn't do anything. And Kyle Duggar, after a good start to his, kind of the same player, different positions. Kyle Duggar had a good start to his career, was looking to have a contract extension, and has fallen off in New England since they've hired Mike Vrabel. Maybe this is, a fresh start for both these guys. The Patriots, they drafted Travion Henderson early on in this draft, I believe in the second round, and he's been a basically no-show throughout the first start of their season. They're going more to Ramondre Stevenson. So this was the ESPN trade idea that they put together earlier, maybe a couple weeks ago. I wouldn't mind that at all. Also, coming up, the latest ESPN trade rumors. I also break down a couple more guys that the Texans could look to add and sell off as we near the trade deadline. Before we get into all that, quick word from our sponsor over at Prize Picks. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. It's super simple. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 players. Stat projections, if you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money today. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 40 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. And if you're looking at, Jeremy, what should I do? What kind of lineup should I put together? This is my lineup for this week. I'm going a stack, a new feature that Prize Picks offers where you can do multiple projections for the same player. C.J. Stroud, I'm going more on the pass yards, less on the rush yards. Jaylin had a great game in Week 7. I think he can do it this week as well. Give me the more on his rushing and receiving touchdowns at 0.5. And then Mac Jones, the Texans defense, was kind of sliced and diced in Week 7. I think they'll do much better at limiting the big plays. So Mac Jones, 34.5 longest completion. Give me the less on that. You can use my picks or make your own lineup with our friends over at Prize Picks today. It's the best place to win cash while watching sports. Join millions of users and sign up today. Download the app. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, now let's look at their most recent article, ESPN, and who they mentioned the Texans could be in on. They linked the Texans to multiple players. First up, a guy who Texans have been linked to quite a bit, Bryce Hall, running back from the Jets. The only problem is I don't know if running back is the biggest need for the Houston Texans right now. I would go O-line. I would go maybe this next guy tight end more than I would go running back. Bryce Hall, good player, but maybe you're ready to give up on Nick Chubb. Maybe you don't believe that Woody Marks is going to be a good player or a, every down back for you. But I don't know if I would give up a second, third, or fourth round pick for Bryce Hall at this point in the season. Another player that I've actually talked about quite a few times linking to the Houston Texans is Titans tight end Chigoziem Okonkwo. He's played pretty well, and I think if the Texans can add a player like Okonkwo, that could really help you in the long run. Nick Caley, he was a tight end guy before he came to the Houston Texans. And part of the reason why I think his offense might be struggling to start the year is his reliance on tight ends and the fact that the Texans, they don't have any good tight ends. They were working with the assumption that they'd have Brevin Jordan, they'd have Cade Stover. Both those guys injured at the very beginning of the year. Brevin Jordan for the rest of the year. Kate Stover, who knows whenever he's able to come back from that hairline fracture he suffered in week 1. But I think Chigakonkwo could definitely be a guy that Nick Caserio should take a look at the tight end spot if the Texans want to add some more firepower to this offense. And they actually listed another running back for the Houston Texans and Browns running back Jerome Ford. Okay, I mean, same thing I said with Breece Hall, right? I think, running back, maybe Jerome Ford I think would be a better fit if you could get him for a 6th or 7th round pick rather than trading a, second day pick, a 3rd or 4th rounder for Breece Hall. I'd much rather go for a guy like Jerome Ford in my opinion, but I don't think running back should be the biggest need for the Houston Texans. They also listed 2 guys that the Texans could trade away. Christian Harris and Christian Kirk. Both Christians in this ESPN article. Obviously, I mentioned earlier at, linebacker, Christian Harris might have a few suitors, one of them being the other team in Texas, the Dallas Cowboys. I've seen, trade ideas, this, that, and the other between the Texans and the Cowboys. I think that would be a pretty good fit because the Texans, they obviously have other guys ahead of Christian Harris. They like E.J. Speed more. They like Henry Toto more. I think if, last year of his rookie deal, he's going to walk after this year anyway. If you're able to get anything for him, maybe a 5th or 6th round pick, I think that's a win in my book if you're able to get something for Christian Harris at this point. And then Christian Kirk, you traded for him at the beginning of the offseason from the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, the same problem that he had in Jacksonville, he's having with the Texans right now. He cannot stay on the field. He continuously is injured with that hamstring injury. He missed the first 2 games. And then he missed last week, missed practice on Wednesday. So, if he can't get out on the field, get healthy, I wouldn't mind trading Christian Kirk either. Even though I think he's a good player, could definitely help this team. The best ability is availability. And Christian Kirk, he just doesn't have that. Now, last up, Bleacher Report. They also put out an NFL trade article. And very interesting, some of the names that they threw out there. One name that they linked to the Texans was Jackson Powers-Johnson. Now, I've mentioned the Raiders center/guard before, and he was one of the guys who I said, out of everybody that I talk about in this video, if the Texans could trade for one guy and one guy only, my opinion, it would be Jackson Powers-Johnson. The former 2nd-round pick out of Oregon, he's fallen out of grace with this Raiders coaching staff. They went ahead, and they're starting Alex Kappa, who I know PFF, they suck right now, and their numbers are all out of whack. But last year, Alex Kappa was the worst-graded guard by PFF. He was awful. And they're starting him over the former 2nd-round pick in Jackson Powers-Johnson. If you're able to trade for anybody in this video, I want it to be JPJ. Add another guard, put him in there at left guard, put him in there at center. Either way, I think this Texans offensive line improves by adding a player of JPJ's, ability, of his standard. And I think this offensive line will improve if you're able to make a move like this. They said the trade, compensation for him would be either a 4th-round pick or a cornerback. We don't really have a lot of corner depth, so a 4th-round pick it is. I would 100% make that move if I'm the Houston Texans. Other guys who not necessarily linked to the Texans but have been linked in the past, Mark Andrews. They put his projected value at a 5th-round pick. And for that, kind of same thing. I'd be down if they're able to figure out the money, make it work out. Adding another good tight end like Mark Andrews, I think would help this Texans offense leaps and bounds. I think Mark Andrews, maybe go a little 2 tight end sets with him and Dalton Schultz. Even though he's a little bit older and the Ravens, they've been bad this year, they're kind of looking to replace him with the younger Isaiah Likely for a 5th-round pick. I would for sure kick the tires on Mark Andrews. And as I mentioned earlier, Breece Hall, they put his projected value at a 3rd-round pick. That's just too rich for my blood. If I'm the Houston Texans, I'm not spending a 3rd-round pick on a running back. I mean, even though he's been good this year. 99 carries, 448 yards for Hall with the New York Jets. I just don't see it. I would much rather get a lineman or a tight end. I think both those positions will more directly impact this Texans offense rather than getting a running back with Breece Hall, because you trade for Breece Hall, you trade a 3rd-round pick for him. The running lanes aren't just going to magically open for Breece Hall. He's not going to have these wide open spaces to run the football. The Texans O-line is still going to have trouble, run blocking. So if you trade for a guy like Breece Hall, yes, he's maybe a improvement over Nick Chubb and improvement over Woody Marks, but you still have the same issues that you had prior to trading for Breece Hall. That's all I got for you on today's show, folks. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, you can tag me. You can DM me at Jeremy Chuggs. My DMs are open. And if you made it to the end of the video, hey, go ahead and hit that sub button, bringing you daily Texans content all year long. My promise to you is this. Give me 1 week. Hit that subscribe button. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. No skin off your back. It's 100% free. Let me prove to you why this is the #1 Texans channel here on YouTube. All right, here we go. Let's play a game. Name a random Texans player down in the comment section. Anybody. Name a random Texans player. Go. I'm on green. Dude. Oh, my God. I'm on green. Kevin Walter. Oh, dude. I used to be a big Kevin Walter guy. Ron Dane. Okoye, yeah. Dominic Davis. How about Dante Robinson? John Weeks. DJ Swearinger, dude. His highlight tape coming out of South Carolina had me so gassed up. I was like, dude, he's Ed Reed but better. Brian Cushing. You remember those NFL Network like top 10 lists? I saw a clip, and it was maybe from 10 years ago, and it was like the top 10 worst free agent signings of all time. Amon Green was number 7. Steve Slayton from West Virginia. Dude, him and who was the quarterback for West Virginia? Pat White. Ah, yeah, there we go. Well, for some reason, I almost said Pat Green, but yeah, Pat White and Steve Slayton at West Virginia was legit. Jonathan Joseph, Vontae Leach, Ed Reed. Owen Daniels, best tight end in franchise history. I'll say that. Owen Daniels. D-Hop. Texans Sally, how are we doing? Bernard Pollard, dude. Bernard Pollard used to bring the boom. Dwayne Brown, Justin Reed, Brendan Holm. I actually did a trade video surrounding Justin Reed as well. Dude, he was good with the Texans for the first 3-4 years of his career. Fairbairn. Remember Chris Brown, the former Texans kicker? J.J. Watt all day. Go down in the comment section, name a random Texans player. I see the Honey Badger, Kareem Jackson as well from 1TZ Cosmo, Jadeveon Clowney. I used to love Antonio Smith with his he would do like the Zorro celebration every time he got a sack. He was legit. Will Fuller. Will Fuller is the biggest what if in Texans franchise history. If he was able to stay healthy, I honestly think Will Fuller would be talked about in the same breath as a DeAndre Hopkins, as a, maybe not an Andre Johnson, but dude, if Will Fuller was able to stay healthy, he was a problem. Alfred Blue, Conan, I don't know if I'd call him the GOAT, but yes, Deshaun Watson. TJ Yates, the Yates of hell. Alfred Blue. I actually got on X for like 2 seconds because somebody said, oh, yeah, Jaden Blue, the son of Alfred Blue, coming out of the draft this year. I was like, really? Jaden? No. Jaden Blue is, in fact, not Alfred Blue's son. They just both have the same last name. Carlos Hyde, Alberto Serrato saying Mario Williams. Yeah, poor David Carr. Reminder, we're going to do one more segment, and then we're going to do our mailbag. This is going to be the first show that I haven't done the helmet mailbag, which I can't say I'm absolutely broken up about because the helmet does get very hot. We do have one $2 super chat from Eric Marquez. Appreciate you. Jacoby Jones, RIP to Jacoby Jones. Dude, he was awesome with the Texans as well. Quick reminder, if you do want to get on the mailbag, ensure that you get on it later on. You can put your question in a super chat. Any super gets you up on screen. Every $5 super chat gets you a chance to win the Will Anderson Jr. autographed helmet. And we do get to $100 on today's show. We will do the helmet mailbag, which we're not close to. But that's okay. That's okay. You can't have a rager every time. Sometimes you just need a kickback. Sometimes you just need a chill sesh. Yeah. Mad chillin'. Corey Moore, Keyshawn Martin, Jonathan Joseph. A lot of good ones in there. A lot of good ones. All right, let's see what's up next. Shane Leckler as well. Oh, yeah. Bad news for the Texans. Bad news for the Texans. Yeah, but I don't know why it's the Seahawks logo. Should be a Week 8 matchup. Yeah, I was like, that's not right at all. I was like, nothing about that is right. Not a singular thing. Billy Miller, our first TD in franchise history, up against the Dallas Cowboys. Vince Wilfork, oh, dude, the HBO Hard Knocks with the Houston Texans when Vince Wilfork came in with the overalls. Dude, honestly, and Jack is saying, my producer Jack is saying all-time season. I tend to agree, but I feel like sometimes I can't say that because people are like, oh, Texans bias. Of course you think it's the best season. I think it was awesome. Number 2, what's number 1? The 08 Jets. All right. Now coming up, I got some bad news for you. I talked with our 49ers host Chase Sr., and basically what he was telling me that the 49ers have done the past 2-3 weeks doesn't lend well for your Houston Texans. So I'll break that down coming up on today's program. And it's not all bad. It's bad news for the Texans, but I think there are some things that the Texans can look at and say, hey, how can we fix this? How can we mitigate this before the 49ers roll into NRG Stadium? I'll break all that down on the show coming up. Roberto Bass with the $2 super chat. You know what? Eric Marquez, Roberto Bass, both y'all the only super chatters on today's show. I'm going to give y'all both Will Anderson Jr. helmet raffle tickets. Thanks for being real ones, Roberto B's and Eric Marquez. Both of y'all getting some Will Anderson Jr. raffle tickets. Just says, hey, you. Hey, you. All right, coming up, my segment after I talk to our 49ers host Chase Sr., and I'm going to tell you the bad news and maybe how the Texans can mitigate that going into Week 8. I got bad news for Houston Texans fans. I talked to our 49ers host Chase Sr., and we got some stuff we got to worry about as the 49ers roll into town this Sunday. Noon, 49ers, Texans, and the 49ers, they've been on somewhat of a little bit of a roll. 5-2 on the season so far, even with all the injuries that they've had. I'm going to tell you how they've gotten to that point, what the Texans got to worry about, and how they can solve those problems before San Francisco plays up against your Houston Texans in Week 8. Now, before we get going, Texans, they're wearing the H-Town alternate jerseys on Sunday. And a lot of mixed reviews from my coworkers here at Chat Sports. So I want to hear from you. Do you like the H-Town alternates? Give me your grade for these jerseys down in the comments section. A, B, C, D, or F. Do you like the H-Town alternate jerseys? Be honest with me. Let me know down in the comments section, as this is what you'll see the Texans rocking this Sunday. All right. Houston, we have a problem. Number 1 is going to be the problem against the blitz. And I know what you're probably thinking as you look at the injury report, as you look at the depth chart for the San Francisco 49ers. You're like, Chuggs, they're without Bosa. Bryce Huff, he's out this week as well. So we're good. Not so fast, sweetheart. The 49ers, they're going to send pressure. And the fact that they don't have their marquee edge rushers, I don't know if that's better or worse for the Houston Texans, because without them out there, they're going to send more stunts. They're going to send more exotic blitzes, and that's what they've done the past 3 or 4 weeks with their defensive coordinator in Robert Saleh. They've done a much better job at getting after it and making sure that, their pressures, they're not easily ID'd, and they're sending those stunts. And if I know one thing about this Texans offensive line, they have been basura, trash, going up against stunts. This was Monday Night Football. And I know it's easy. You could you're like, oh, you just took a screenshot from a random play, this, that, or the other. I don't care how you parse it. Look at what's going on right here. You have 3 Texans players guarding one person as there is a free edge rusher coming right up the middle for C.J. Stroud. I mean, come on. That is awful. And if this is any indication on how the Texans are going to try to block the stunts that the 49ers are going to bring this Sunday, it's going to be another long game day for your Houston Texans. Because as I look at the Texans' offensive line, like the interior, left tackle, Ariante Ursery, everybody, they've had so much trouble picking up stunts this year. And it probably doesn't help that you keep on rotating in your left guards with Juice Scruggs, because I know I have him in as the starter, but I mean, he wasn't starting up against the Seattle Seahawks. He only played in 43% of the snaps on that Monday Night Football game up against the Seattle Seahawks. So with the key pass rushers out, and you don't even know who the left guard's going to be on any given play, the communication has been trash. The Texans just one-on-one up against other defensive lines has been god-awful. So, yeah, they don't have their premier guys in Bosa. They don't have a premier guy in Bryce Huff, who's been one of the better pass rushers so far in the NFL this year. But I think that lends it more into the 49ers, kind of realm of we don't know who they're going to send. We don't know how many guys they're going to send. And Robert Saleh has done a fantastic job of really hiding his blitzes and making sure opposing quarterbacks don't know what's coming. And that is one of the major weaknesses for the Houston Texans this year. So, Houston, we have a problem. That problem is Robert Saleh and the fact that they're going to send a ton of blitzes C.J. Stroud's way, and that's been his biggest problem, the Texans' offense's biggest problem this season so far. Coming up, I have more problems that Houston will face up against the San Francisco 49ers because there's a couple of them. Kyle Shanahan being one of them, one of the best play callers in the NFL. Before I tell you about those problems that the Texans could face this Sunday, I don't have a problem with my daily fantasy sports app because I use Prize Picks, the sponsor of today's program. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I, we make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Prize Picks, they put their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. And speaking of this Sunday's matchup, this is the lineup that I have going for this week. C.J. Stroud, this is a new feature called the Stack, so you can do multiple projections for a singular player. C.J. Stroud, I have more on the passing yards, less on the rushing yards. Jaylin Noel, give me the more on his rushing and receiving touchdowns at 0.5. And then Mac Jones, longest completion of 34.5. The Texans, they got sliced and diced this past week. I don't think that'll happen this week. I think they're going to tighten up DeMeco Ryans, defensive coordinator Matt Burke. They're going to make sure no chunk plays this week. So give me the less on the longest completion for Mac Jones. You can use my lineup, or why don't you go make your own? Because it's not just football. Also, basketball is here. I know baseball's coming to an end, but hockey's here as well. And you can play all of those with our friends over at Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Second reason why Houston, we might have a problem. The 49ers know DeMeco Ryans on multiple levels. One, DeMeco Ryans was working directly under Robert Saleh for multiple seasons. DeMeco Ryans was the linebacker coach. Robert Saleh, the DC, before he ended up taking the New York Jets job. And then DeMeco Ryans got the promotion to defensive coordinator. And speaking of that, who was the head coach the whole time that DeMeco Ryans was there? Oh, yeah, that was one Kyle Shanahan. So you could say they know each other pretty well. And I know what you're probably thinking. Well, Jeremy, it works both ways. And you're right. It does work both ways. DeMeco, he does have some knowledge of the Kyle Shanahan offense and possibly how to stop it. But at the same time, it's almost like a Obi-Wan Anakin kind of face-off, right? It's the master versus the Padawan with Kyle Shanahan up against DeMeco Ryans because, DeMeco Ryans, widely known as one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL, but I would say Kyle Shanahan, it's the big three when you think of offensive play callers in the NFL, in my opinion. Kyle Shanahan, Andy Reid, Sean McVay. Those are the three guys when you're like, who are the best play callers in the NFL? I think it is obviously those three. Some other guys definitely could be on that list. You're looking at like a Kevin O'Connell from the Minnesota Vikings, a LaFleur with the Green Bay Packers. Of course, those guys are good as well. But I think the big three that you look at, Kyle Shanahan, Andy Reid, and you look at Sean McVay. So the fact that, the Texans, they've struggled on offense. Robert Saleh, he knows DeMeco Ryans pretty well. I think maybe the fact that you have two guys in Saleh and Shanahan that really know DeMeco, that might be a factor this weekend as the 49ers come into town. And the last reason why we have a problem, you might notice on the injury report for the 49ers, they have Brock Purdy still listed. And we don't know whether or not he's going to be good to go this coming Sunday. But the thing is, Mac Jones, he's actually been pretty good. Over the past 3 games that he started, he actually leads the NFL in passing yards at just over 1,400. 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the year, a completion percentage of 67.0%. He's played really well for this 49ers offense and, the quarterback whisperer in Kyle Shanahan. So even though they don't have Brock Purdy, they're still playing really well with Mac Jones. And yeah, not only Mac Jones, you're also getting a vintage CMC this year. 132 carries, 465 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns, but that's just on the ground. Christian McCaffrey, he's been awesome all year long. And not only on the ground, Christian McCaffrey, he's also been a major threat out of the backfield catching the football. This year alone, let's see, he's got 53 receptions for 516 yards. So he has been the ultimate threat for this 49ers offense. And the Texans, their linebacking core, safeties, whoever matches up against CMC, they're going to have a tough time stopping Christian McCaffrey this coming Sunday. So all those things, plus the Texans, they're on the ropes. They're 2-4. They're going to be a hungry football team, and they need to come out with their hair on fire. All those reasons are why I think it's some bad news that the 49ers are rolling into town, but at the same time, I'm going to end the video with this, a little silver lining. The Texans, they are on the ropes right now. It's like a junkyard dog. When you have them backed into the corner, you can do 2 things. You can lay down and you can take it, or you get up and fight with all your might. And I hope the Texans are that junkyard dog that comes out and fights with their hair on fire, because if not, it's going to be an ugly Sunday, and a lot of Texans fans are going to give up on the season. And I don't hope that's the case. I hope the Texans come out, they prove us all wrong, they punch the 49ers in the mouth, and they get a win and get on the right track to possibly trying to get back to 500 as they drop to 2-4 up against the Seahawks. I think this is a very winnable game up against the 49ers. There are some problems. The 49ers, they're a good team. They're 5-2 right now. But the Texans, they can still win this ball game, and I expect DeMeco Ryans to have his boys ready to go on Sunday. All right. Harrison Diggs says Texans go 7-10 at best. We'll see, man. I think they can turn it around. Like I said, more favorable schedule towards the end of the year. They play some lesser competition. They play the Raiders. They play the Cardinals. They play the Titans again. There's some winnable games at the end of this Texans schedule. Right? I'm looking at it right now. You play the Niners, Broncos, and Jags. 3 tough games, right? You then play the Bills, or you play the Titans, then you play the Bills. But on the back half of your schedule, like I said, you play the Cardinals, you play the Raiders, the Colts, division game. You win your division games up against the Jags, the Titans, and the Colts. You're in a decent spot. As Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, PFF, I don't know if we can trust him as much. One of my bosses, Brett, just put in PFF this past week had Geno Smith as a higher graded quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. That just can't happen. Speaking of trades, because we talked about that earlier on today's show, let me know, what's the best trade the Texans have ever made? Let me know down in the comments section. I think it might be trading somebody away in Deshaun Watson. I think the Deshaun Watson trade might have been the best trade the Texans have ever made. Also, maybe a sneaky one in my opinion, trading up for Will Anderson. I think he's been an awesome addition to this team, and I think he definitely has a chance to be, in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation this year. I think those two trades are probably the best ones that the Texans have ever made, just off the top of my head. But let me know down in the comment section, what do you think the best trade the Texans have made for? Trading for Mixon and Hunter was great from Harrison Diggs. Yeah. Joseph Gold, Colts are going to kill the Texans. We'll see, man. Colts are playing good this year. I mean, I can't really talk too much about the Colts. They've been awesome. So I will say division games, you never know what's going to happen, and hopefully the Texans show up for those games. But we'll see. There's still a lot of season yet to be played. Still a lot of season. Fawnville Fines just got off work, tuning in on the ride home. Appreciate you tuning in, Fawnville Fines. Here we go. Another $2 super chat. I'm going to go ahead and put you in for our Will Anderson Jr. helmet raffle as well, Mr. Fawnville. From Roberto. Hey, you. Oh, yeah. And then Fawnville Fines just got off work, tuning in on the ride home. There we go. All right, we got one more segment, our mailbag segment on today's show. Producer Jack, how are we looking actually on questions? Not bad. Okay. We have a decent amount of questions. You can still try to get in. Hashtag Texans. If you want to make sure you get your question on, super chat with a question. If you super chat with the question, we'll try to get it on. Or if you super chat with a question, we'll get it on during the mailbag for sure. Sorry, needed my hot water. Wish they would have traded Howard instead of Tunsil. I don't know if the Commanders would have given you the same trade package that they gave you for Tunsil for Howard. I don't know. I think either way, the Tunsil time in Houston had kind of run its course. I know I still wasn't the biggest fan of the Tunsil trade, but I could see how both sides, were kind of both at their wits' end. The Texans with Tunsil having all the penalties, not being a guy, not being a leader that, not saying he was a bad person, bad player, anything like that, but just not being the vocal leader, the guy who's like the J.J. Watt style of, lead by example. That wasn't Jeremy Tunsil. And I feel like they needed that, and they didn't want to continue to pay somebody all that money who they didn't feel was giving them the return on investment that Jeremy Tunsil did. 21 Savage, good question. Make sure you put hashtag Texans in there if you want that question on the mailbag. All right. Concussion says, chug me. Concussion me. All right. I think we're all good to go. We're going to run through our Texans Today mailbag, and then we're going to pop on out of here. Let's go ahead and get into our last segment of today's show, a live Texans mailbag here on Texans Today. Welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and on today's show, we're doing a Texans Today mailbag. All of these questions are from our live audience on October 22nd. If you want to be featured in one of these mailbags in the future, we go live every Wednesday, 3:30 Central Time. So all you got to do, show up to the live show, use hashtag Texans or Super Chat to be featured on the program. And as I mentioned, all the questions from today's show from loyal subscribers who turned in to our live show on every Wednesday at 3:30. All right, here we go. Amanda Pearl with the first question on the mailbag. Hashtag Texans. Why would we put out Barry over Noel and then also take away his PR role? It makes no sense. We need to put trust in our rookies. Yeah, I mean, the fact that Braxton Berrios is getting the amount of, offensive reps, the thing is, Amanda, I agree with you 100%, Amanda. If it was, we're going to take Noel off of his punt return duties, but we're going to give him a ton more snaps on offense, that would make sense. Or if they were like, oh, we can't play Noel all these offensive snaps because we need him on punt return and kick return, okay. But you're not going to put him on punt return, and then you're going to limit his snaps on offense whenever he's maybe been the most electric Texans wide receiver this season. Doesn't make any sense to me. I am 100% with you, Amanda, in the fact that he either needs to see more snaps on offense or let him be the full-time punt return, kick return guy. Because, Berrios wasn't giving you anything out there. Wasn't good on offense, and then he had a punt return at the end of the game where he tripped. There was nobody near him. He tripped at the 50-yard line. Nola's been electric in the return game. Give him that or let him play offense more. But did not make any sense, in my opinion, as you mentioned, that the fact that they limited snaps on offense and then he's also not the punt returner. Good question, Amanda Pearl. The Bubbas, talk about Popovich for a sec. Appreciate you, my dude. Appreciate you, the Bubbas. Yeah, we were all hesitant with Cole Popovich. The fact that he was the assistant offensive line coach last year. They promoted him to offensive line, the main offensive line coach, especially with the fact that the O-line was not good last year. And maybe, he didn't have control, this, that, or the other. Okay. But the offensive line this year has not gotten better in picking up stunts, has not gotten drastically better at run blocking. Name one thing the Texans' offensive line has done drastically better than last year. The only one that I can think of is penalties. And that's because you got rid of one of the main guys who was forcing the penalties in Laramie Tunsil. So I don't think we've seen that much improvement. And the fact that we didn't even have a search, we just immediately gave the next guy the job, that still grinds my gears. And another reason why Nick Caserio is slowly becoming more on the hot seat for me as a Texans fan. Next up, James Romero. Why do you praise, right as I said it, why do you praise Nick Caserio so much? In my opinion, he's more to blame than Caley. I'll say, yeah, I have given Caserio praise in the past, and I think he's done, when I think he does good, I'll try to give him his flowers. And when he does bad, I definitely try to point that out as well. And this offseason, going into this year, I was trying to be that hopeful Texans fan, being, the pieces here and there. Maybe we can all put it together. Maybe a new scheme, new offensive coordinator, this, that, and the other will help. But the fact is, more to blame than Caley. You look at the Caley hire, that was Nick Caserio. I don't give a shit what he says, what the Texans front office, what the Texans ownership says. I refuse to believe hiring Nick Caley was DeMeco Ryans' decision. It was a Nick Caserio decision. You're telling me a guy who worked with Nick Caserio in New England, went to the same college as Nick Caserio as well, was it at least, a bias for Nick Caserio to give him the job over other candidates? I wanted, I'll say I was wrong. I'll say it was right. I wanted two other guys ahead of Nick Caley. I wanted Chip Kelly, which you've seen how that's gone in Las Vegas. Not so well. But I also wanted Clint Kubiak. Two names that I thought were more proven play callers, more proven OCs than a Nick Caley. But Caserio got his way, and I don't care. I think DeMeco Ryans, he's a team guy. He's a leadership guy. He wants to, take the blame for himself and, make sure it doesn't, permeate around other guys. But 110%, it is your fault, Nick Caserio. And I think the hotter seat, in my opinion, I'd be typing my Caserios. But let me know, who do you think has the hotter seat right now between Nick Caley and Nick Caserio? If the season ended right now and I said you had to fire one, either Caley or Caserio, who are you doing? I think it's Caserio. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section because, I think some of the moves that he's made, his smugness and how he thinks that his shit don't stink, it's starting to rub Texans fans the wrong way. And it should, because the fact is, he didn't address the offensive line, our biggest issue from last year, and he laughed in our face when we told him that was our biggest concern. So, Caserio, I'm looking you straight in the eyes right now. You got some explaining to do, mister, because you done a shitty job. There you go. There's me kind of giving my flowers and then taking them away from Nick Caserio. Next up, Alberto Serrato. Texans, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you rate the Texans so far this season? It's tough because, losing record, you can't go anything more than a 5 in my opinion. So I'm going to go with a 4 for this season so far for the Houston Texans. You have a losing record, you're 2-4, but at the same time, I'm giving it more than a 1, a 2, or a 3 because in all your losses, 1-score games. You lost week 1 to the Rams. You were driving down the field to win that game, fumbled by Dario Gumbawale. Week 2, Monday Night Football up against the Bucs. You had them on 4th and 10. You were up late in the fourth quarter, a sack to Baker Mayfield would have won you the game, and Henry Toto completely whiffs. Baker gets the first down, and they end up driving down and scoring the football. Week 3 up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, Nico Collins fumbles the ball inside the 20-yard line as you're going to score with, just under 3.5, 4 minutes to go left in the game. So there's been, it's a game of inches. It's win or loss. There's nothing in between. I mean, I guess there is a tie, but at the same time, with a losing record, I don't see how you can give it more than a 5. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, because for me, it's a 4. Great question, though, Alberto. We have some more Texans fan questions coming up, but couldn't do today's Texans mailbag if it wasn't for our friends over at Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there. You and I, we make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Join the millions of users and sign up for America's #1 fantasy sports app. And on Prize Picks, how you play is up to you. You want flexibility? Choose the Flex Play, where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want bigger payouts, go for the Power Play. No matter how you play, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. And here is my lineup for this week. I'm doing one of the new features they have on Prize Picks called Stacks. You can do multiple projections for the same player. So I'm going C.J. Stroud, more on his passing yards. I think this is the lowest amount that it's been all year long for C.J. Stroud at 200.5 passing yards up against San Francisco. Rush yards, I'm going the less at 16.5. Jaylin Noel, he was maybe one of the biggest bright spots for this Texans team from this past week. Give me the more on his rushing and receiving touchdowns. And then Mac Jones, longest completion of 34.5. I'm going less on that. I think the Texans stopped the bleeding and stopped the chunk plays that they've allowed over the past couple of weeks. You can use my lineup or go ahead and make your own. Just do it with our friends over at Prize Picks. It is the best place to win cash while watching sports this season. Download the app today. Use code CLNS and get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks is good to be right. All right, Adrian Martinez. Hashtag Texans. If the Texans offense plays even decent, what would the record be today? Honestly, I think the Texans offense has played out of 10, a 3. If they're at a 5 or a 6, I think you're sitting right now with the opposite record of 4-2. I think you win 2 of those close games. I still think you either lose to maybe the Bucks, Rams, or Jags. Maybe, the same thing with the team they just played this past week, the Seahawks. So I think you win 2 of those games that you lost really close on those one-score games. So I think if the offense is at least decent, you're looking at a 4-2 record instead of a 2-4 record. Just my opinion. Good question, though, Adrian Martinez. Next up, Neo Razor, hashtag Texans. What is the biggest change that needs to happen immediately to turn the offense around? I think the fact that your offensive line cannot communicate and pick up stunts. If one thing needs to change, it is the blitz pickup from this Texans offensive line. You could say maybe, run blocking. You can say C.J. Stroud needs to be a little bit more accurate. You need maybe more explosive plays from the wide receivers. But none of that happens if you can't get the protection right up front. And it's sickening because, we talked about Cole Popovich earlier. That was a big issue last year with the Texans offensive line. And I haven't seen much improvement. I don't even know if it's better or maybe even a little worse than it was last year with our blitz pickup, blitz recognition, and stunt recognition. They are lost whenever the defense mixes up their blitzes. And if I could change one thing, it would be that. Because I think we saw the photo, Jack, of one of the worst blitz pickups I've seen from the Texans this year. And the funny thing is that this isn't out of the norm. The Texans have had multiple plays like this where they have 3 guys blocking one player and a free blitzer coming up the middle. That is on communication and blitz pickup. That's not that our guys suck. It's not that we don't have talent on the offensive line. It's that the communication's not there and the blitz pickup is not correct. So if I could change one thing, that would be it. The offensive line coach, probably Cole Popovich. That's kind of your job, buddy. Next up, Christian Tate. Hashtag Texans. Who would the Texans have at OC if Caley is fired? I see a lot of people all saying, "Oh well, the Dolphins, if they fire Mike McDaniel, then then we'll just have him as our OC. That's not going to happen, right? It's, what are we? We're in week 8 of the season. You're not going to install a brand new offense week 8 of the season. That's why you have mini camp, training camp, the preseason. All those things are to install the offense, get everybody on the same page. If you think the blitz pickup is bad and the Texans look out of whack now, imagine trying to start a brand new offense with a brand new scheme with brand new people. That would be the biggest thing, because if they fired Caley right now, it wouldn't be an outside OC. They wouldn't go and hire somebody else. It would most likely be somebody that's in-house. I would probably say Ben McDaniels, the wide receiver coach, brother of Josh McDaniels, who's the OC for the New England Patriots. I think it would either be him or the quarterback coach, Gerard Johnson. Those would be my 2 guesses on who would be the OC if Caley was fired. It's not going to be one of these outside names. That's not going to happen until after the season, and that might be the reason why DeMeco Ryans won't move on from Caley in season, because, who are you going to go to if that's the case? Now, what say you? Will Nick Caley be the OC next season? Let me know down in the comments section. Give me a yes, give me a no. DeMeco basically committed to him for the rest of this year, but will he be the OC next year? Let me know. Yes or no. I mean, he needs to turn it around quick if he wants any chance to still be the play caller in Houston next year. Next up, Fire Wing. Do you think the Texans will trade for Breece Hall? Funny enough, I actually mentioned this in my live show this week, as you're probably watching right now, Fire Wing, that Bleacher Report put out Breece Hall, projected a 3rd-round pick for him. If it's a 2nd or 3rd-round pick, no way would I want to go near Breece Hall. Now, the Texans have been linked to looking for a running back. They have been linked directly to Breece Hall on multiple occasions. I think, where there's smoke, there's fire, as one of my coworkers likes to say. And, there has been a lot of smoke around the Texans looking into Jets running back Breece Hall. I don't know if the price is right for that, but, definitely a name to consider. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that the Texans make a move for running back Breece Hall as we near the NFL trade deadline. Thanks for the question, Firewing. Carl Meeks, should they have kept Slowick? I had a tweet that went out during the Seahawks-Texans game where I was more facetiously, more joking around of, oh, Bobby, I'm so sorry, this, that, and the other. I will say, no, I don't think they should have kept Bobby Slowick. I think it was the right move to move on from him. I just don't think they made the right hire. I think when you have a defensive-minded head coach like DeMeco Ryans, right? Like, not that he can't help on the offensive end, because, he's been around the coaching sphere. He's been around Kyle Shanahan, other guys like that. And to coach defense, you have to somewhat know what the offense is doing to know what the defense needs to do to stop them. But at the same time, the fact that you hire another first-time play caller in Nick Caley after you hired a first-time play caller in Bobby Slowick, I didn't get that at all. And the 2 guys I wanted, yeah, one of them has sucked this year in Chip Kelly, but the other guy I really wanted was Clint Kubiak, who we just faced, the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. So know that I was joking when I tweeted that out. I don't think they really should have kept Bobby Slowick. But I don't think they did a good job with the coaching search. And really, whenever I look at that, I look at Nick Caserio. Good old boy Nick Caserio, who just likes to hire his best friends. So I think that's a major problem. Thank you for the question, Carl Meeks. Next up, Caley for prison. For prize on. Maybe he misspelled prize picks. Texans, we should trade for Devon Achane. Dianna Russini did put out a report that the Dolphins are kind of open for business for a lot of trades. They've been mentioned mostly with their edge rushers, with Bradley Chubb, Jaylin Phillips. I don't know if they would move on from Devon Achane because he's their best running back and maybe one of their bright spots. I think they're actually more likely to move on from a guy like Jalen Waddle before they move on from Devon Achane. But at this point, I don't think anything is out of the realm of possibility for the Miami Dolphins. They've been that bad this year. I think it's a foregone conclusion that their head coach, Mike McDaniel, is probably going to lose his job at some point this year, probably blow it up this offseason, probably move on from Tua as well. So, Devon Achane, maybe. I think that might be a possibility for the Houston Texans, who have been reportedly looking for a running back in the trade market. That's all I have for you on today's show, folks. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for free Texans content all year long. And reminder, I'll be live this Sunday. Texans, 49ers, be there or be square as the Texans try to get on the right track. We have our live watch party. Make sure you pull up for that. All right, there we go. Woo! We got through it. 4 segments. 4 segments down. 4 up, 4 down. 21 Savage, agreed and agreed. Hell no to Kaylee Land Casario, but Kaylee needs to learn and get better yesterday. Yeah, and that's the thing, is that Nick Caley, do I think he is, do I think he's going to be off, like he doesn't know ball, all this? No. But he's somebody who needed a team that he could develop with. Like, if he was to go to a team that didn't have expectations, like, I don't know, like maybe like the Carolina Panthers or, a New Orleans Saints, a team that was not expecting to win this year. But if you're expecting this Texans team who's made the divisional round 2 years in a row, and you're like, oh, well, yeah, we can learn and grow with this guy. That's not what we needed. We needed a guy who could come in right now and produce right now. Like, that is like saying, oh, yeah, we're ready to win, so let's bring in, Davis Mills. No, like Davis Mills is a decent quarterback. Does he have room to grow? Can he be good? Yeah. But if you're a team that's ready to win and you're trying to take that next step to a Super Bowl, why are you getting a guy like that? Like, why are you getting a guy that needs some time to gel, some time to grow, some time to come into his own as a play caller? He's never play called before at the NFL level. He's sat a backseat to Sean McVay. So, yeah, it's frustrating to say the least. All right, that's all I got for you on this live edition of Texas Today. Appreciate everybody who tuned in. I always say, the most valuable thing you have in this world is your time. The fact that y'all spent some time with me today, that means the world to me. If you made it to the end of the live show, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I always do a little something special at the very end of the live show. If you made it to the end, spam those H's down in the comment section. I'm going to give a couple free raffle tickets away because you made it to the very end of the live show. You stuck around to the end, and I really do appreciate y'all spending that time with me today. So if you made it to the end, spam those H's. I'm going to give away a couple more free raffle tickets. 1TZ Cosmo, Texans Tally. Y'all are getting some free raffle tickets. Eddie, the Concussion. Appreciate y'all for stopping in. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you stay all the way to the end of the live show. 21 Savage. Shaggy 51. I'll give y'all some free tickets as well. And I'll give one to Fresh West and Harrison Diggs. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the live show. That's all I got for you today. Make sure you pull up. I'll be live Sunday, 30 minutes before kickoff. Don't miss a single moment of Texans football this year. I know it's been frustrating, but it's a little group therapy. We'll all be in it together. So, for me, shout out to producer Jack on the ones and twos. Till next time, everybody have a great day in H-Town. Hold it down.